Alright, I'll be doing project 2 today. So, project 2 we use the goniometers to collect some data. The data we collected was forwards walking, forwards fast walking, backwards, and backwards fast. So I'll get to the specifics of that data in a minute. So, after you collect that data, you have to upload it to the box, whether that be by email or directly from the app that you collect the data with. So that's where I'm at right now, the box. And so you have to create your own folder. So this is my folder. Now, this isn't what yours will look like because it's got all my stuff from this project completed. But the important one right now for you is your Excel sheet with the data on it. So I got that right there. And so this is what it's going to look like. It's going to be a bunch of numbers and a bunch of Excel cells. So don't get overwhelmed. It's quite simple. So you might be wondering, how do I know which ones I need? Well, good thing for Dr. Streepy. He gives you a example workbook, and in the top cells right here, it's got the labels and tells you which ones you need. So that's when you need to open your own Excel sheet. Check out right here. So we see that we need time, angle 1, rad, angular velocity 1, rad by seconds, and then knee angle degrees and knee velocity we will be creating. Alright, so you have to get those by opening up your data sheet. So drag that over here, and I like to just work these side by side, save some time. So what I just did there is you can just click the tops right there and then copy and paste it. Pow, input that. Alright, let's do it for this one. Boom. And just do that for all the ones you need. Alright, there you go. So you see, we got time, we got angle 1, and we got angle velocity. Now that we have all the data we can get from our Excel data sheet in the box for this run, now we need to do an equation to get knee angle degrees. So for that equation, we need to type in equal sign 57.3, the little asterisk button above the 8, and then just click the first cell in the angle 1 rad section, and then enter. So that will give you a number that pertinent to my B3. It'll be different for you guys, possibly. And then there's this little square in the bottom right corner. You just grab that and drag it all the way to the bottom. Boom. It'll automatically multiply all those by 57.3. So now we've got knee angle degrees. So now we need to find knee velocity. Alright, so we do the same equation, 57.3 asterisk, but instead of angle 1 rad, we multiply it by angular velocity. Knee velocity, angular velocity, you see. Alright, do the same thing, grab the little box, drag it. Alright, so now we've got all the numbers we need. So we come over here, look at this example workbook. Okay, alright. So we see they got knee angle degrees, knee angle, time. So from that, you can kind of extrapolate that they used the time and knee angle degrees to make that. And so you might be wondering, Josh, how do you just select two columns that aren't right next to each other? Good question. I was confused too. You click the first one, and then you let off. You hold down Control, and then you click the second one. Simple tricks that goes a long way. Alright, so here's the graphs. We see right there, it's probably scattered with straight lines. Alright, so we just put that somewhere neat. And so you might be wondering, how come it doesn't look like that one? Well, that's my fault. This is a calibration trial right here, and for that you have to lift your leg up, which is the flexion part of it, and then lift it down, which I didn't do. So this is my messed up calibration graph, but you still get the drift. Alright, so then a big part of this class is just instructions. And so you look over at this graph, you see, alright, well, what's different about this one than this one? You see it's got axis titles, it's got no grid line, and the flexion and should be extension is labeled, as well as the title. So to do that, it's different on computers. I'm using a Mac, and it's almost the same, but it's a little different than like Microsoft computers. But you just have to find the add chart elements, and then you just go one by one and fix those. So we'll get rid of the grid lines first. We've gotten the graph pretty much the same, and I went ahead and paused the video and just did that just to save some lag time, because I'm kind of slow with it. I know how to do it, don't get me wrong, it's just, it takes a few seconds. So to do all that, you just need to utilize the add chart elements. In Microsoft, like I said, it'll be something different. I think there's a plus sign right here to the right of the top right of the graph where you click. It'll look pretty much the same though. So axis titles are just right here. You add the primary horizontal, add primary vertical. Grid lines, get rid of both of those. Just click them. They'll disappear, don't worry. And then to add in the flexion and extension labels, I inserted a text box, which might be a little different than how they tell you, but it comes out the same and it works. So you add the text box. After you add that, it's going to have a border around it, and you want to get rid of that. So you go to shape format, and it's just this one right here, the shape outline. Just click no outline. And so after you do that, the graphs look the same. You can get rid of the run one, so it's just knee angle degrees. So after we label the sheet down here in Excel, calibration, trial, you're all done with that one. Alright, so let's move on to run number 2. For me, it's forward walking. For you, could be something different, but it doesn't matter. Same gist. Alright, so as we can see, we still need time, angle 1, rad, angle velocity 1, rad, and then do the same thing to get those. Alright, so hopefully you paused the video and inputted your data from your data sheet from the box, and then did the equations to get knee angle degrees and knee velocity. So we should be on the same page and caught up. So it's time to move on to the graphs. So let's look over here, and we see that they need the knee angle and the time. We got those. So click that, knee angle degrees. Insert the same graph as we did for the calibration trial. And just move it over here. Alright, so let's look, and so we need the axis titles. We need, just need the axis titles, and then this might fool you. In the example workbook, they got the grid line still there, but when you check out the rubric in the Canvas files, it says get rid of the grid lines. So just make sure you're always checking both of those, and just make sure you get those easy points. So put in time, put in the angle, and there you have it. And then we can do the second graph, and then I'll get to these equations over here. So for that, we need velocity, need position, which is the knee degrees. So get both of those, insert, and it's just the same graph. It's just looks funny, but there you go. Now this one you really have to configure to make it look like that. Let's get to it. Let's fix this graph. So you can really just ask the teacher how to do it, but if you don't want to do that, you can kind of just find out why this graph looks different than this. So you can see on our values right here, the max is 250 and the minimum is negative 250. And then this is at 0. And it's not supposed to be like that. So to fix it, you kind of just double click those values right there and then fix them. It's easy as that. So 400 right there for minimum, not 4,000. And then maximum 400. And then horizontal axes crosses. So right now it's on automatic. We want to manually set it to negative 400. Enter that, and yep, I'll put 4,000. So change that to 400. And so now it's getting a little closer. So you can exit out of that. So to do this, I don't know why it does that sometimes. You just kind of got to drag the graph up like that. And so there you go. Now it's getting to look the same. Alright, so as you can see, I've now got the correct graph with the grid lines fixed and the axes titles put in. So while doing this, I encountered a problem that you might encounter. So I'll just go over it real quick. This axis title, as well as the other one, was on top of the graph like that. So to fix that, kind of just move it down below it. And then if it's still on the graph, like this is how mine looked right there. So as you saw right there, I just changed the size of the graph inside the box. So right now the graph's too big. So we gotta make it smaller. And yeah, I can fix that a little bit more. And so there it goes. Alright, so now to these equations over here. So to find the flexion, you just type in flexion, and then the equation for that is equals, and so after you put in equals, the Excel's like expecting you to type in a function, so it'll pop up with some suggestions or recently used. So if you usually type in MA or MAX, max will pop up. So just click it once, and then click the whole section of knee angle degrees, just click enter. So now you've got your flexion. Now extension is just that, but minimum. So you type in MIN, it'll pop up. And then enter, you're also using knee angle degrees for that. And then ROM, it's equals minus these two. There you go. So for that one, you probably could do that equation either in your head or with a calculator, but for the purpose of this class, you're trying to learn how to use Excel. So we want you to use as many functions as you can, and so we want you to do the calculations through Excel. So once you're done those calculations for the forward data or whichever one you chose, you just complete those same steps for the rest of your trials. And so pretty much it's the same thing, just different numbers. Use the same calculations for flexion, extension, range of motion. You choose the same graphs. You input the same data from your preliminary data attained from the tests. And so it's really just repetitive. After you do it once, you should be able to do it the rest of the times. It's quite simple. And so after you've done those trials, we move on to group analysis. So for this to be possible, you need to meet up with your group members and attain their data that they got. So as you can see in the example workbook and my workbook that I completed when I did this project, the data's in sections. So for knee flexion, we have forward and forward fast together. Then we have backwards and backwards fast together. And the same thing for knee range of motion, or knee wrong. And so you just put the title there, you input the data, and then an essential part of this is this spacing right here. Alright, and so the spacing is essential, so that way when you make the graph, you can differentiate between the forwards and the backwards data. Alright, so on to making the graphs. Just like the graphs before, you just have to select the data you want in the graphs, go to Insert, and then this time for the graph we're using scatter with straight lines and markers, unlike the other ones where we did not have the markers. So you just click that and it'll make it for you, and then you just have to configure it to either how you want and to how the rubric calls for it. So this one's for knee flexion. Just type knee flexion in like usual. And then, so as you can see on the example workbook over here, as well as the one I've already made, it doesn't have vertical grid lines, so it's good to fix that. And then you also want to input the conditions there. So I just did the same thing I did on the graphs before, if you recall what I did there, where I put the text box in. So you just have to make the graph a little smaller, get a text box, just draw it in like that, and just align it with the markers, so just hit the spacing until, so you just repeat this for the rest of the graph as well as the knee range of motion graph. And that's all there really is to it, and you'll have your graphs made, and all you have left for the project is doing the write-up, which is the Microsoft Word account. And so the main advice I got for you when you do the write-up is when you save these graphs. Other than that, it's just up to you what you want to put in there for the intro, conclusion, explaining the data. But the one thing I can tell you is when you go to save these graphs, right-click, go to Save As Picture right there, and just type in whatever you want. And when you go to Save As Type, save as a JPEG. Now, this is important, so when you put it into the Word, you can move the picture around. Also, Streepy's going to check it, so if you don't do it, it's easy points missed. So you just save it like that. Alright, so after you've saved that graph, you just got to go through the rest of your project, save the graphs that are necessary, which, when I did it, it's just these knee velocity graphs right here, as well as the group analysis graphs. So after you just save all those and input them into the Microsoft Word write-up, you should be done the project. You just got to upload all of that stuff to the Box account, the write-up, the workbook, and all your graphs saved as a JPEG, remember. So don't forget that part. So my main tips for this project is just read the rubric. It's a lot of little things like the grid lines, saving pictures as a JPEG. It's easy points, guys. And it's just a matter of reading the rubric and dedicating a few minutes to checking it off. So I hope I could help, and I hope the rest of your guys' semester goes well. Thanks.